Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. You know the drill. We're back at it again with the Reddit stories. So let's jump into it, shall we? Pass the pepper, goddammit! Entitled customer steals from my table. I like fresh ground pepper. My wife likes fresh ground pepper. My friends like fresh ground pepper. I particularly like it on my weekly Sunday breakfast, which, as it happens, takes place in the same local neighborhood diner as it has for 10 years. Alas, this diner deploys simple pepper shakers, inadequate for our tastes. So we bring along our own purse-sized mill. This diner, I should further point out, is generally patronized by regulars each Sunday morning, and we are on a smile and wave basis with most of them. As usual, this past Sunday we were enjoying our breakfast, talking, laughing over stupid jokes. The usual. At the table to our immediate right was a couple of about mid-50s, same as us, but unfamiliar to us, not regulars, and the man had a loud voice. So loud, in fact, that he made our conversation a little difficult. During a lull in our conversation, I heard him say, "Pass the pepper." My friends then mentioned that they were going for a bike ride later and wondered if we'd like to join them. I thought it over, and just as I was about to answer, I heard a scraping of a chair from the next table. Suddenly, the man with the loud voice was looming over our table. "I said, pass the pepper, goddammit!" he barked and reached across the table to grab my pepper mill. A cacophony of protest, surprise, queries, and exclamations followed. I managed to block his hand and looked up at him. "Hey, what are you doing?" I demanded. My friend, a very mild-mannered and gentle man, jumped to his feet and squared up. "Pass the pepper!" the man snarled again. "What is so hard to understand?" I quickly slid the pepper mill off the table and into my pocket. Then I, too, stood up. "The pepper?" I asked. "You mean my pepper? This isn't the communal pepper. What the f*** is wrong with you?" he shouted. "I want the goddamn pepper." At this point, his wife/girlfriend/companion, quicker on the uptake, realized his mistake and tried to get his attention. "Roy? Roy! Sit down! It's not... Roy! Listen!" She tried, but Roy, doubling down and in high dudgeon, was not to be denied. "Get that fucking pepper out of your pocket and hand it over. Now!" Eyes were uncomfortably on us. Other tables were watching this play out in surprise and shock. At this point, a server approached, with her arms full of someone else's breakfast. "Hey guys, not sure what's going on, but I have hot food here, coming through." As she passed, Roy shouted again, and this time threw his hands in the air in a "what the hell" gesture. It all happened in a blur, and before the server could dicky, she was covered in sunny side up eggs, home fries, and sausage. "Roy!" the woman screamed. "What the hell? Hey, watch out! Oh no!" And a dozen other exclamations from the onlookers erupted all at once. "Fuck!" Roy shouted. "See what you fucking did?" His wife had scrambled to her feet to assist the server who dropped the second plate as well. My wife also got up to help, and the owner, Donna, a sweet-faced 65-year-old, suddenly emerged from the kitchen. "What is going on?" Everyone started talking at once, and Roy, Alpha Roy, shouted over everyone. "This asshole," indicating me, "wouldn't pass me the pepper." Donna gaped uncomprehendingly at him for a moment. She looked at the mess on the floor, the now red-faced and furious Roy, the other customers, and then at me. "What? There's pepper on your table. Roy!" his wife screamed again. "Apologize now and sit down." "It's my pepper mill," I said again, "not the restaurant's." "Fucking idiot! Why didn't you say something, asshole?" I laughed out loud and looked with amazed surprise at my friend. He stared straight at Roy and said in a quiet but firm voice, "Listen to your wife and sit down." Donna looked around at the mess and confusion. At this point, a approximately 45 seconds had elapsed since Roy first lurched to his feet to steal my pepper. "I think I'm going to have to ask you to leave," she said to Roy. "I can't have this in my restaurant." Roy's wife, nearly in tears, began apologizing rapidly and repeatedly. Roy started protesting and demanding that he get to eat his breakfast. Donna, sweet-faced but tough, told him he could leave voluntarily or he would have the police assist him. "Roy, now," his wife said. She left a wad of money on the table and grabbed his arm, pulling him to the door. "I am so sorry," she said to Donna and the server. "I guess he loves his pepper too." Poor Roy's wife. The entire time I was reading this, I imagined Roy as Red Foreman and his wife as Kitty Foreman from that 70s show, of course. You know, we can call in a specialist to find my foot in your ass. Actually, no. Red has way more tact than this guy. I would say Roy is more like Al from Married with Children. "Oh, Peggy." Entitled mother demands my deaf employee apologize for ignoring her. For reference, I've spent 15 years of my life being a restaurant general manager. I've got some crazy stories. Anyways, I was reminiscing lately, and this story came up. It was Mother's Day, one of the busiest days at my restaurant. Quick service, self-seating, casual dining. The entitled mother had already ordered, had her buzzer, and was waiting for a table to open. She sees another family get up and immediately runs to their dirty table to reserve it. No big deal, right? Just need to bus it. The entitled mother sees my deaf employee, I'll refer to her as D, and begins yelling at her from behind. Obviously, D doesn't notice anything at all, as her back was turned to EM. EM continues to berate her. Now, I understand that there was no sign saying that my employee was deaf, but I believe a normal, logical person would realize that something was off after getting zero acknowledgement. I noticed something going on, so I walked over to the irate EM and asked if I could help. EM goes off about D ignoring her requests and demands. I apologized to EM and explained that my employee didn't respond to her shouts because she is deaf and genuinely had no idea anyone was trying to communicate with her because she wasn't in her line of sight. This is when EM accused me of lying, that she's not actually deaf, and if she is, then why would I hire someone who couldn't respond to her shouts and demands? I was getting very annoyed at this point. I explained that I didn't need to justify any of my hiring decisions, and that I 100% stood behind my team. She then began demanding that I fire D, stating that there was no use for a deaf person to work in a restaurant. This got me fuming. At this point, her table had been bussed, her kids were sitting looking quite embarrassed, and her buzzer was going off informing her that her food was ready for pickup at the counter. To me, there was no reason to continue with EM, especially on such a busy day. I asked if she needed help picking up her food, and if not, I wish her a good meal and excused myself. But EM was not done. She saw D restocking some items and decided to prove me wrong. Entitled mom approached D and again began berating her, using very offensive language. When D turned to face EM and realized she was being yelled at, D was frightened and confused. Now, this was the final straw. I never allow my employees to be harassed, and this woman was especially evil and dense. I immediately had my expo counter, pack the woman's order to go, handed it to the woman, and told her to leave immediately. Entitled mom called me a and told me she was going to contact corporate and have both me and D fired. Yeah, okay, like I've never heard that one before. I escorted EM and her poor children to the door and told her that she was not welcome back in my restaurant ever again. Side note, in case you were worried about D. D was crying and was so confused by the situation. I sat with her in my office and explained that this had nothing to do with her and she was an amazing employee, which was absolutely true. D worked with me for over 5 years and was the first deaf deaf employee to be a certified trainer for her position in the company. Aw, OP sounds like she was a great manager. More managers need to be like OP. A happy team equals a functional restaurant. And that's just the truth. People like entitled mom though? Disgusting. No use for a deaf person? No one should be banished and shunned. Everyone deserves the same opportunities. Actually, oddly enough, I saw this super wholesome video the other day of a deaf waitress who had a sign stating that she was deaf and for the customer to just circle on the menu with a dry erase marker what they wanted. Which, honestly, I would prefer. I would much rather just smile and sign thank you 1,000 times. But anyway, that is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed these 2 entitled people at the restaurant stories. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!